Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Let's move this camera so I'm looking at it anyway. Hi, hello guys. Last night we had the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. I'm Mute the Weirdo, also known as Pixie. Basically, I just wanted to do a video with my thoughts on Hell in a Cell. I've got a few major points. I'm not going to go in any particular order. That's generally my style. But what I wanted to discuss was obviously how good was the pay-per-view? What are my thoughts on it? Whether I feel like, yeah, this is a good pay-per-view, no, this is rubbish, or somewhere in between, maybe, and also to get an idea of what went well and what went not so well. So I'm going to start off with my main gripe with the pay-per-view, and I kind of have reasoned it out, having slept on it. Kind of not as big of an issue now, but my main gripe was Hell in a Cell. There's 3 Hell in a Cell matches. There was Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso, which was on first. And then there was the women's SmackDown Women's title, Bayley and Sasha Banks. And then there was the main event, which was Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. The one thing that I would say I had a gripe with, not so much now I've slept on it and thought about it a bit more, but originally it was the main event, Hell in a Cell. There was no reason for it not to be the women's match in my book, because it was the feud with the most hype. It was the best Hell in a Cell match of the night, in my opinion. Thought it was amazing. Lots of good spots. They didn't anything people might not agree with this, but everything they did, it felt like it fit in the match. There was a place for it. It didn't feel like it was forced. It just ran smoothly. The pay-per-view, it was just the best match on the card from my point of view. And that makes me kind of sad, because as much as it's great that Sasha and Bayley put on the best match of the card, it kind of doesn't say a lot for the guys, because the guys should really be doing just as good, if not better. It's more, I suppose, that the world is changing, but you would argue that that should not be the match that you're hyped for a wrestling pay-per-view. But it was, and it delivered, and I think it should have been the main event. So that was my main gripe, is like I felt like that should have been the main event. But then, as I said, I've changed my mind a little bit. The pay-per-view wasn't, as a whole, the most exciting, the most amazing pay-per-view. There were definitely some good points, there were definitely some bad points. But for me, having the women's Hell in a Cell towards the end, but like not the end, kind of kept you going a little bit more. It's like there was a lull, and then it's like the women's Hell in a Cell, boom, right, nice one, something worth watching here. You know this is going to be good. And it was my most looked forward to, and it delivered. But the main event with Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, I wouldn't say I disliked it. I would just say that it was average. But because Randy Orton was in it, it felt like it was put on a pedestal, made out to be this amazing thing. He's not as, I'm not saying he's not great. He's great in the ring. He's, one of the best, possibly of all time. But he can be a little bit boring at times. And hence the nickname Randy Orton. I just personally, I've not been interested in his matches a lot. And the only time that I was previously really was when he was coming up and then going to the Legend Killer gimmick. It's been a lull since then, really. Not really been too bothered. And he's had his time for me. For me, Randy Orton has had his time. He's not really someone who I'm too bothered about. Seeing hold the title, seeing at the top of the game, I feel like it's a Charlotte Flair, John Cena situation where they're just pushing him to get him to that pinnacle where he's pushing Ric Flair's title reign, if not going to be the one who beats it. And I'm not totally against him doing that, but it's like it feels like he's not earned it. Like the further we get into the modern world, it seems people have title reigns that basically, this guy's won the title. Let's make him lose it quick so that he can win it again and get another title reign. It doesn't mean anything to me. Someone having 16, 17, 20 title reigns is not going to make them a good wrestler to me, not going to make them a legend. What it's going to make me think is they had to lose that title. And that seems to be the general consensus when I look at the pages online. As to like what people think about Randy winning the title, is like they feel like Drew needed to lose it soon, if not last night. It needed to be soon, and I agree. I do think it was time for Drew to lose it. Really enjoyed him as champion. Would like to see him hold the title again at some point. Just don't particularly feel like Randy was the guy to do it. But you needed it to be a heel. You needed it to be a good heel. And when you look at Randy's ethic and you look at his character and everything, even though it's a bit skewiff with the Legend Killer gimmick, it still kind of works. He's kind of killing the legacy of Drew McIntyre in his eyes by taking the belt away from him. And he's put Drew over as well for a long time now, which is good. Trying to think outside of that, anything to go down with the Drew and Randy match, I think is a good place. Me personally, the spot where they go up to the top of the cell made no sense. I didn't see any need for Randy and Drew to go up on the top of the cell. And if they were going to go up on the top of the cell, I couldn't see either of them being, like, to me, the way it happened. So spoiler alert. Basically, Randy Orton sort of starts to climb down and Drew McIntyre follows him, and then Randy Orton sort of, well, I don't know if anything really, it's not like it pushed him or I can't remember exactly, but it wasn't a wow moment. It was Drew's fallen off the cell and it looks like he's really hurt. And he sold it and it was really well sold, but it was such a pathetic sort of fall in terms of what we've seen in WWE previously, that I was just like, whoa, hang on, no, that's nothing. Like, that was pointless. Just to go up to the top of the cell to deliver that spot where Drew drops from the oh, hang on a minute. Oh, Ben, hi, how's it going? Yeah, so he drops and he lands, and he's internally bleeding, supposedly. He's having a hard time. Definitely not needed. It was a distinctly average Hell in a Cell match. It was a okay match. It was passable. Wasn't that I didn't enjoy it. Just personally, I think the fact that they went up the cell just to have him fall, and then Randy Orton struggles to climb down the cell. I mean, maybe it went wrong, and that's why Randy was struggling, because he was in shock that it had gone so badly. I don't know. It just seems very bizarre as to why they went up the cell. They're not two guys I'd expect to see on the top of the cell, and I feel like we have to have this spot, even if it doesn't work for the guys in question. Let's see what Ben's saying here. Hi, mate, do you think he'll hold it again? Yeah. I mean, personally, I kind of thought it was pointless Randy getting another shot if he didn't win. So it made sense for him to win. And I think Drew will hold it again, if not a different belt. Like, he could go somewhere else with and have a shot down the line. He could be, he could be put in a position where he has a shot at Roman. But then again, he could be turned heel at some point. You don't know. With that, I've heard rumors that he might end up feuding with the Fiend. Give the Fiend something to do outside of outside of recruitment, which is what he seems to be doing at the minute. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so as far as Hell in a Cell matches go, I don't think it should be in your top 10. And I don't really think that it was main event quality. It was a decent match, but it wasn't wow. And there's a small part of me that really wanted The Miz to cash in after that match, just because I don't really want Randy as the champ. But I don't know if Miz will cash in on Orton, and it'll be interesting to see how things progress with that. But those are my thoughts on the main event, and obviously a little bit about the women's Hell in a Cell, which, as I said, was definitely my favourite match of the night. And there was a lot of filler in this pay-per-view, I believe. I don't feel like Jeff Hardy versus Elias. I get why it has happened, but I feel like it's been left so long, and it's obvious that the situation that they're in, and Elias is just ignoring the obvious, and basically just to have a feud, just to make it out like there's a reason that they're fighting. And it's just a bit poorly done, in my opinion. But it was a decent match, not special, and the fact that Jeff Hardy did what he did, and then I've seen an interview with him saying he'd love to have another match with him where nobody gets disqualified. And I'm like, what? I don't really understand what's going on there. It don't quite make sense to me, but at the same time, it was okay. I'm then looking at going to go for the other Hell in a Cell, which is obviously Roman versus Jey Uso. Now, the problem I think with this match was Roman Reigns was always going to win this match. Maybe like once in a blue moon that it doesn't go that way, there could have been a chance that Jay could have won it, but it wouldn't make sense. You've got a tag team wrestler who is being given a chance to shine, but he's not being repackaged. He doesn't particularly have a reason to hold a main title. I can't see him being anywhere near the title. Yeah, I mean, we're just going back to that, Ben, briefly, is like The Miz and The Miz says you don't know who it's going to be and you don't know when it's going to come, and I think that's why he's done that. I think he's basically trying to keep us guessing, which is good, but ultimately I think Otis should cost him whatever title he tries to cash in on, but I don't know if that'll happen. But yeah, going back to Roman and Jay, there was so much they could have done with this Hell in a Cell. There was so much they could have done with it, and there's no reason that the storytelling in this feud has been outstanding. It's been brilliant. Roman's been really good. Jay's been really good. The whole idea of these guys in a feud for the title has been good. Just the fact that Jay's a tag team wrestler and the fact that he isn't really someone who anybody would realistically see as a WWE or Universal Champion just wouldn't happen. It just makes it look a bit, what? Personally, I enjoyed this match, but not the finish. I felt like the finish felt a bit weak. It made Roman look weak and it made Jay look weak because Jay was there playing dead for God knows how long. His brother comes in, seemingly brings him round a little bit, seemingly gets through to Roman Reigns, and then it turns out Roman Reigns is just playing him for a fool, and then Roman just makes it so that basically he quits, like, but he doesn't quit. It's just oh, well, we'll just end the match here, because they didn't know what to do. They didn't have a clue how to finish it, because much like anybody who's trying to predict this match, there was only one outcome, one winner, but there was no way to get there, because Jay would never quit. It just wouldn't make sense for him to do that, because you've put his entire sort of family standing on the line, and he's got pride. He's not going to do it. Oh yeah, Bobby versus Shane Thorne, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I just, for me, the problem with Roman versus Jay, as much as it was good and really, really fun to watch, like, once you've, and I hate to say it, but once you've been out in this world and you've seen that it's scripted and you know that this is what's working with it, you just kind of go, oh my God, no. Like, don't you see what's happening? Don't you? Like, you see that, obviously, to me, the ending of it as well, the thing that got me was when he goes up, when he goes up to the ramp and his uncle and his dad are there, and it's like, oh hi, yeah, no problem, here you go. Like, I mean, these guys are like badasses. They were badasses in their time. So for them to just be like, oh, here you go, Roman, after the match, is like, I don't know. And I think it's all going to lead up, as we know, to The Rock coming into this feud. I'm not sure how that'll play out now, because it looks like the Usos are going to have to join Roman Reigns and do whatever he says and be like under his thumb. And I don't think that's a bad idea. I think having that family as a faction on SmackDown is a good idea. It's a nice little storyline that they've got going. Do they bring Rikishi into it? Maybe, I don't know. That could develop. That could be interesting. I've heard people saying that Rikishi goes against the family and sides with his sons, and then, I don't know how they're going to play it, word it, what have you. Just bear with me a second. It looks like somebody's messaging me on Facebook. It's only a... it's just somebody sending me a meme, ironically, about what we're talking about here. It's pretty good match. The strap getting involved, that was pretty good. I thought Roman went a bit OTT pretty early on, and to me, if that was the ending, and this is the kicker, I think, and someone might want to chip in here, it's like on this bit, but Jay chokes Roman out to the point where he cannot say I quit, right? So the match continues. But when Roman does that to Jay, the referee tries to end the match. Now, you can argue that Roman wasn't actually out and that's why it didn't happen, but you would just be pissing it up the wall, whatever you want. It's just a bit stupid, if you ask me, to have Jay put Roman out and then Roman suddenly is fine, and when it happens to Jay is out for ages, and his brother comes down and it's a big thing, and then there's not the words uttered, or there is the words uttered, but they're too quiet for us to hear because that makes it more dramatic. Personally, not the best ending for me, but don't think you could have ended that particularly well in any situation. Retribution, Hurt Business situation, Bobby Lashley, Ben brought it up there, is like, personally, I don't see the point in Retribution anymore. I like the idea, but I think there's been too many failed attempts and changes and indecisiveness in the storyline to make it a legitimate threat. And you've got the Hurt Business. The Hurt Business just seem to be dominating them because you're protecting the Hurt Business. Now, I'm not against protecting the Hurt Business. I'm not a massive fan of them, but I see the point that they need to be protected. They need to be seen to be a badass faction. But for me, the fact that you bring in Ali as the hacker and the leader makes perfect sense. But if he then acts like he's scared of the Hurt Business when all four of them are there together, as much as that might seem realistic for a guy of Ali's size and for a guy on his own, when the rest of Retribution has been parried away, it seems a waste of time for the group if their leader cowers in the face of a couple of guys. Like, personally, it feels more like Ali should be the front man, not necessarily the full-on leader, but the guy who orchestrates everything visibly, and maybe there's a bigger and more powerful, not necessarily a wrestler, a bigger and a more powerful behind the scenes guy who's leading it. Let's throw a few names out. I don't think any of these are going to happen, but Shane McMahon, Triple H, basically leading these guys who essentially have been held back by WWE or haven't gotten the opportunities that they feel they deserve. If someone like Shane or Triple H was leading that group, he wouldn't need to get involved with the day-to-day running of it, so to speak, but he's sort of helping them, and then eventually maybe he gets revealed, whoever it is. But having revealed Ali, you're kind of thinking, well, now that this has happened and he's cowering away from the Hurt Business, is there any point? Also, just to bring in a bit of before Hell in a Cell, to bring a bit of context into this Retribution thing. So Retribution asked for a match with one of the Hurt Business, a one-on-one match, and Hurt Business has accepted, and they said Bobby's going to go out there and destroy whoever you send at him, and we'll make it a United States title match. Now, for a faction like Retribution, they are supposed to be heel, yet Ali was, and to most people still will be, one of the biggest underdog faces in the company in recent times. So to suddenly switch him into a heel, to me, didn't make much sense. The Hacker gimmick made sense. The Hack, they could have made it work, but he doesn't really suit this dastardly heel sort of persona. And I think it's a Vince thing, as like he doesn't have a clue what he's doing with smaller guys, or like people with a little bit of a culture about them, shall we say. Like he struggles with Japanese wrestlers quite a bit. So having Ali in the situation, I just think that maybe like there's someone bigger telling him what to do, and he's going to be revealed at some point. Or Ali needs to recruit some better backup, or somebody like, my thought is that we bring Gable and Austin Theory into Retribution. But maybe do we need to reveal, do we need to hide them behind a mask? I mean, we could do, but I don't know, is it necessary? Anyway, cut a long story short, I think that the Retribution, obviously Shane Thorne, who is known as Slapjack, came out, accepted the match against Bobby Lashley. I'm not a massive fan of Retribution. The guys in it are decent wrestlers, but this faction's going nowhere now. There's been too many changes, too much messing about, and now they're up against the Hurt Business, and it just feels like the Hurt Business is always going to be ahead of them, and it kind of feels like pointless. It's like, why have you created this faction if you're not willing to push them? If you're not willing to push them, there's no point in the faction, because the whole point is these guys are here to cause chaos, and if they're not causing any chaos because nobody cares, because the Hurt Business is just squashing them at every turn, it's just a waste. The only other match really that I feel like is worth having a bit of a chat about is Otis and The Miz with the Money in the Bank briefcase. I might have already spoiled it a little bit because I mentioned about The Miz with the titles. The Miz wins, but the way he wins is a bit of a shock. Predictable, but I wouldn't have gone with that myself. First sort of like originally when I was thinking, oh, Morrison could cause some bother, Morrison could either cost Otis the Money in the Bank briefcase, or Morrison could cost the Miz it, because the Miz and Morrison have been having a bit of an issue with each other lately. But cut out that, I think Tucker turning on Otis, hitting him with the briefcase, was so predictable once Morrison left and he went over to that side that it really ruined the fucking rest of the match for me. It was like, oh great, so this was Otis doing really well. Don't want to strip him of the Money in the Bank briefcase, leaked all over the media. Vince doesn't want him to drop it. And then The Miz does it. The Miz just takes the briefcase off him. And it's like, I'm not saying The Miz doesn't have better credibility and better opportunity with that belt. He's a dastardly heel. He's got more opportunity to do that. He would... He would do really well cashing that in. But I also think he could quite easily fail just as easy as Otis. Like Otis could screw him. To me, it didn't sit right. It's like, why give Otis the briefcase in the first place if he's just going to get it stolen off him at some point? It has happened before, so yeah, fair enough. Not too bad, but I don't see how it's really that good that he's just gone, oh yeah, well, I want the briefcase, and the Miz is being given a match to go for it. And also, like I said, we all know what happened in the courtroom. Likelihood is Miz showed JBL a bit of the money. Now, to me, that's questionable, and it was all about integrity and all this, and then oh no, now he's not. He's got to wrestle for it. And Otis would have won had it not been for Tucker turning on him. It just seems a bit bizarre that they would drop, instead of thinking up of a way to push him. And they changed his music as well. They changed his music. You think, oh, maybe they're actually going to do something with Otis, and they still might. They still might push him. They might have him have a one-on-one match with Tucker. They'll probably put on a really good match because they know each other really well. But realistically, neither of them are going to go anywhere, and they should have been kept as a tag team. And it's just a waste of space that they've been split up now, because not only is Otis not going to get this push, supposedly to get to the title, Tucker is going to have a little feud with Otis, and then that's what they both go back to being irrelevant. It just seems a bit sort of like, I'm struggling to see where they're going to go with this. So aside from that, overall, I think the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view was pretty good. Like, there's some good bits in there, and I think maybe slightly above average for a WWE pay-per-view, or for wrestling at the minute is probably a better argument. I tend to watch a lot more of NXT than I do anything else. And with that slipping a little bit in my eyes lately, just being a bit contrived and stuff, I'm hoping that this is WWE turning things around on their main roster brand, as you might call it, Raw and SmackDown. I'm trying to think what else there is to sort of touch upon. Not really too. I didn't really see the point in the 24/7 title match. Just nice that it was there, I suppose. Kind of like both R-Truth and Drew Gulak, but feel like it's a bit of a joke title, and they don't really quite use it the best. Oh dear. I'm trying to think. So yeah, going forward, do I think the Miz is going to cash in on Roman? Do I think he's going to cash in on Randy? Do I think he's going to wait until one of them loses it to someone else? Do I think he's going to cash it in? What's going to happen? I personally think there's two options. You have him cash it in order to have Orton regain it from him in order to further his number of title reigns. Then I think basically he should, if not, he should fail to cash it in. Like, if he doesn't, if it's not to further Randy Orton's title reigns, then the only thing I can think of is he maybe fails to cash it in, either against Roman or Randy or somebody else. It doesn't really matter. I don't really see The Miz as someone who needs another title reign at the moment, but equally, he doesn't not deserve one. He just doesn't need it, and the only, maybe if it's to further Morrison's career, he might get a title shot and take the belt to drop it to Morrison, because to me Morrison's been underused. It's like, oh, we bought this big star and he's coming to WWE, and then we put him in a tag team with The Miz like he did before, and it's like he's been, it's like there's a build, there's got to be a build somewhere. It just seems a bit weird. Anyway, coming away from that, Ben said, do we think that Randy Orton versus Finn versus Roman, triple threat at Survivor Series, or Drew versus Randy with Roman versus a new opponent? I would prefer the triple threat match. I think Finn Balor has proved himself for long enough now that should be the match. That's not set in stone yet, because obviously something could happen before then. You don't know what's going. I don't know what's going on with Finn at the minute and the NXT title. If not, I hope that Drew versus Randy, if they do it, I hope that it's the last time that they face each other, because I'm getting really sick of Drew versus Randy. It's a great feud in terms of the way that, like, Drew's trying to build his legacy and Randy Orton's the legend killer, and it kind of ties in. And also, like, Randy Orton is a veteran, and for once in his life it looked like he was putting someone else over by losing to them on several occasions. I think it's time that feud is finished. Maybe Drew is injured and he takes the time off, and then he comes back and Randy's already lost the title. I don't know. Roman versus a new opponent, I don't know. I really don't know. Roman Reigns is not, I don't know who he'd face. they've obviously teased the Fiend, but obviously the Fiend's now on Raw, so I think they've done with that for a while. Maybe the Fiend comes back at some point. They could have the Fiend fight him for the title at Survivor Series and have Drew and Randy finish their feud. But what tops Hell in a Cell? Last man standing? I don't really feel like they need to do any more Randy versus Drew. Just going to wrap it up, but with what do you think? Are NXT going to get involved with the Survivor Series pay-per-view? And if not, is Survivor Series going to be a bit rubbish this year? Because personally, I think that NXT is needed to make that pay-per-view worth watching. WWE's main crop are doing a lot better. You're thinking Shane O'Mac? Sorry, Ben. Are you thinking Shane O'Mac versus anybody is not happening? I don't think, if that's what you're on about. If you're on about Shane Thorne, as in Slapjack, I don't think he's at that level yet. But I think the most likely options for shall we say Randy, maybe the Fiend, but I don't know. Has he fought the Fiend? Because to be honest, he did have a bit of a cross with Bray Wyatt back in the day. He could be a target for the Fiend, definitely. And that would be brilliant. I honestly, the annoying thing is I don't really want the Fiend to win the title again, but I feel like that's maybe where they'll go. If not straight away, it won't be long. I think the problem with Retribution is what I see is I think it's worth going back and touching upon that briefly before I close the stream. But when Retribution attacked the Fiend, that was my big issue. Is like, why have they attacked the Fiend? The Fiend is supernatural, can disappear and reappear whenever he wants, and you ain't topping that. You ain't being able to top. You can hack your way into anything. You ain't topping the Fiend supernaturally, teleporting, appearing and disappearing. You might as well just leave him alone, let him get on with his, stay out of his way, because he, as we saw, he wrecked Retribution. The thing is, could he recruit members of Retribution into the Wyatt family? Because to me, he changes people who he comes into contact with. If you come into contact with a number of Ali's followers, a number of Retribution, are they going to change their mind about being in his faction? Are they going to switch and want to be in the Fiend's faction? Or are they going to get more dangerous because of being in contact with him, but still remain with Retribution? remain with the cause of Retribution. Going forward, I don't really know. I don't think even WWE know what they're doing with Retribution going forward. Personally, I think if Shane or Triple H or somebody like CM Punk was their leader, they'd have a little bit more weight behind them and they could maybe do something about that. But with Ali as the leader and with the way he cowers from the Hurt Business, it don't really add up. And is the Fiend, has he got any issues with the Hurt Business? Like, I mean, are we being a bit short-sighted and a bit narrow-minded to think that he's solely focused on the main title? Could he go for Bobby Lashley's title? Would that be more interesting, seeing him go for that title, fight against Bobby Lashley? He's trying to convert Kevin Owens. Is Kevin Owens going to be part of the new Wyatt family? Is he going to stay away now that he's moved to SmackDown? Does the draft mean anything? I don't know. There's a lot of questions, and if you're watching this on replay, guys, and you want to get involved, please do leave some comments in the chat, and I'll try and get back to you. Hopefully we get some conversation going. I'm sure Ben will keep his eye on the conversation if some comments come through. But yeah, like I said, Ben, I'm not sure what they're going to do with Retribution. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm curious, and no doubt I will be possibly watching Raw tomorrow while I'm working. But, oh, God, I would just hope they do something interesting, because the fact that he's claiming he's the hacker and he's claiming I'm the hacker and the leader of Retribution, strength in numbers isn't my only advantage. It was like, well, use one of those advantages, because right now we're seeing nothing. So I'm going to leave it there for now, guys. But yeah, if you liked it, obviously hit that like button. It'd be great if you would follow the channel, subscribe, whatever it is. And yeah, feel free to leave any comments or personal thoughts on Hell in a Cell down below. And yeah, I'll try and get back to you if I can. Much appreciate Ben here stopping by, helping me out with this, having a bit of a back and forth. It's always good to have somebody else to bounce ideas off. But yeah, I think Survivor Series is going to be interesting if NXT is involved. If not, it's probably just going to be more of the same, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be too bothered. But I should imagine I will be watching it live again. Survivor Series being, to be fair, my favourite pay-per-view of the year. So enjoy whatever you're up to this evening or whatever time it is, and I'll catch you next time. See ya.